anything. There's been discussion. Hello, and welcome to the DXbiz Dev call for the 19th of December, 2022. Is it the last call before the new year? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll have one next week as well. The last one before Christmas. So yeah, on the agenda today, like we have, I guess we can have like a free for all for the first like 20 minutes, and then we'll have Gabriel from Mochi coming. So yeah, Sky just proposed to talk about Ichi, and yeah, do you want to get it going, Sky?
Sure. Yeah, I mentioned it just briefly in a chat in one of our smaller chats last week, but Ichi from a long time ago, and Elon, you probably know this. I think
Yeah.
Collider supported Ichi from the start, but Ichi was like you can make your own community backed stable tokens, backed by your own tokens, but that's a little tricky in the world of Terra and things like that, where you just have a smaller community token backing like a supposed to be reliable, stable token. So that's a little riskier, but at some point they pivoted and switched to active, more like active Uniswap v3 liquidity management. So I think the other one, Arrakis, which I think Mankey and some other, maybe Chris, were aware of as well. There's a handful of different platforms that do that. I didn't really realize how it was working, and maybe Ichi is different, but they've created these vaults where you can deposit just a single token, so your own token, and then they have their own algorithms which are doing the active pinging and active management of the Uniswap V liquidity for a certain range, right? And so the whole risk with Uniswap v3 style stuff is if you provide liquidity on a concentrated range and you're not actively monitoring and moving that around, you'll often end up with a single token, like 100% of one token, if you're not paying attention. So I'd say Uniswap v3 for general like passive people is very, very tricky without some type of active management. The way they're doing it is via a vault, so it kind of looks like a Yearn vault. You just put in the one side, and then their strategy takes that one side and puts it into two-sided liquidity over a little bit of time. And then once it's a certain balance, and I'm going to get more details that I'll share for the details, but once you have that two-sided, you can have this more concentrated range, and you can their automated mechanisms are rebalancing at a time. And so as DXDAO is about to start looking at using its own DXD to increase liquidity of the DXD token, which is largely going to be on Swapper, or the main probably pool would be on one or more than one Swapper pools. There is but I guess this idea would be to take some amount of DXD, which would be a smaller amount of capital, and put that into an Ichi vault, which, well, I guess would probably be on mainnet. And in a what it does is it increases, pretty significantly increases the liquidity and the depth of liquidity on that token. And so using that in addition to the other places that a token has liquidity, whether it's even just our bots that are arbing that against the other pools, it just makes it a more deeper liquidity for a certain token. The cool example to look at is if you look at Boba token, BOBA, which is actually, that token is on a whole bunch of centralized exchanges. yet the largest liquidity for it is in the Ichi managed Uniswap v3 pool. And so it's an interesting addition to increasing the liquidity in DeFi space of a certain token. Currently, they are actually, as they're bootstrapping the awareness of these Ichi pools, they're actually offering to build the pools with your community token against the Ichi token, but you can actually do it against WETH or USDC or whatever token you want for your pool. But if you do it against the Ichi token, which also then has its own liquidity on the AMM, so allowing you to probably, as a trader, you'll benefit like through routing. So you could trade DXD token against what other token via routing mainly. They're like guaranteeing a return. So a lot of these vaults have been returning quite high APYs, just given the normal strategy they're using. But if for some reason the return wasn't above a certain percent, they were like guaranteeing a 15% return on those pools. And so people like community members, we could create one of these vaults anyway, and community members could put their liquidity into these pools if you want to like crowdfund it, or otherwise the DAO could take some DXD and decide to put into that vault as well. But either way, I think it makes sense to have one and just give the option to at least community members to do it. And overall, I think it would, increase the liquidity of DXD token, even if you don't go trade on that. Like if you don't choose to trade on that AMM, that will just the benefits of having that there would open up liquidity across the token, across all the exchanges, I think. But I don't know if that might be a little confusing to just hear it, as Dan, I think his name's Dan, the guy from Ichi was going to send me just like a couple pages that would outline how it would work, and then I can share that with
Sky, maybe like the last I remember that they were trying to develop a thing that will let you sort of take I guess enter into a pool with leverage, but only enter into that pool with leverage. So let's say, I want to provide liquidity to DXDAO and earn fees. So DXDAO will give me the ability to sort of like do that in leverage, but specifically for that pool. So it's kind of like protected from like, I can't take that money and like just do stupid shit with it.
I'm not sure I know what you mean by like into any like specifically for the DXD pair.
Yeah, I mean, so this is my from what I understand, this is something that we can do. So like, let's say I have $1,000, and so like using Ichi, I could sort of like enter leverage and put $1,500 into DXD ETH pool, and sort of like this is essentially how I enter the pool and earn like more fees, and then maybe DXDAO shares some of these fees because they gave me some credit.
So that so if you want to pair your token against their Ichi token, there's a bunch of Ichi paired pools on Uniswap v3, they're actually helping to put in the Ichi side. So that's effectively, as a pool, it is slightly leveraged, I guess. But in general, Uniswap v3 providing liquidity in a tight range or a tightish range, or not the full Uniswap v2 curve, that is effectively leveraged liquidity providing, right? Because it's got this range around the current market that it keeps moving around. So you need some system to keep pinging it and updating what the balances and ranges are. So I guess if you're talking about leverage, like it's effectively two different types of leverage combined into this pool that allows a pretty attractive return, at least historically. But obviously that can change. That's just backward looking. But they've been consistently producing above, positive returns, obviously. And their guarantee thing is like, if it's below 15%, they'll pay the return in DG token or something to make up the difference or something for a certain period of time. But I don't know if that's what you mean by leverage. I think those are the two levered parts in the vault.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, maybe we can have. Did you talk to Daniel? Who did you talk to?
Yeah, just talking to Daniel about it, and then he was going to send over a thing that I could share with more people so that you could kind of see the details of what it was doing, I guess. But Chris, Chris had already mentioned some thoughts about it. Like, obviously this is the way I'm thinking about it, is in addition to what DXDAO already wants to do. It is, even if the DAO doesn't want to do it itself, like community members, it could help the liquidity of DXD token. Community members could participate, DXD holders. But there are some, centralized elements, like the automated, the algorithm that is off chain, that is automating the movement of the liquidity provision around the current prices and stuff. That is kind of a centralized algorithm that is currently not open source. They're using this for all the pools that they're doing, but that algorithm's not even open. I guess you could probably look on chain and see what it's actually doing, like in the actual movements in the pool. So you could probably back into it somewhat. But eventually, as they build this up, they'll release that open as well. But that is not open right now, I believe. So that's a kind of like a hidden, just like 1-inch algorithms are not open for the world to see, like the aggregator algorithms. Not sure if Arrakis or the other programs that do Uniswap v3 provisioning, I'm not sure if those are open or closed. Mostly.
Yeah, just a couple different thoughts on this. I think one, just to like from what you were just saying, I think that Ichi is in the broad category of how to bootstrap liquidity for individual token projects. And we talk about this with kind of the liquidity.eth thing. It also reminds me a little bit of actually Double Sky. I'm not sure what they're up to. Kind of, but the idea being like, how can you use the least amount of capital to provide like a lot of liquidity? And how can you do it for DAOs and projects? And I think ultimately this will be super automated. Right now, it's not. You mentioned with Ichi, what they're doing. I guess they just probably are monitoring the price feeds themselves and then executing on it. Arrakis is using Gelato bot network to make the adjustments. So I guess like the Gelato bot network is not super decentralized, but it kind of has at least the framework, I think, for long term being decentralized there. Because of course you're basically just going to need a separate network that is like, and it's kind of an Oracle network that is following the price and can adjust. And then of course we'll need to pay like gas costs for that. So it is a pretty complicated setup, and I think it's something to follow a lot. And I think from like a product development, a business development perspective, I think being in this area where helping DAOs create liquidity is really important. And I think wherever those integration tools from Ichi to DAOs or from Arrakis to DAOs, I think is an area to build in, to focus on. With specific to like Ichi right now and DXD token, I think when we talk about like these new liquidity pools or like decentralized exchanges, we kind of view it as this like black box that will ultimately like produce high liquidity, no slippage, allow like anyone to come in. But of course, like at the end of the day, to have liquidity in an asset, you need someone buying it and you need someone selling it. So for DXD right now, like the buy is coming entirely really from DXDAO. That's partly just because it's like the one buying at this level. And so like if you switch to Ichi, it wouldn't change, I think, the fact that you only have a certain amount of buying being done. Whoever is like actually market making on that, like it wouldn't change. It would just be like, how much are you there? And then like if it was a tight band, it would just be like basically like a limit order or something, right? So you would just automatically like repurchase the DXD or something. But then you would need to re-up that liquidity to make sure that there is like constantly liquidity, because there's only a certain amount of like buying going on right now. And then the other thing is on like the selling, I'm not sure. Like right now, there's basically not a lot of liquidity if you want to buy a lot of DXD, which I think is like kind of maybe bad, right? If you wanted to come into the ecosystem, there's not really a way to do that. So yeah, how would you be able to do that? But I'm not sure actually if you want to do that without much slippage, because it might be better actually for there to be more slippage if someone were to acquire more DXD. So I'm not sure if the DAO would want to provide like low slippage liquidity on the upside for DXD. But anyway, I think an interesting kind of thing. So we kind of hear the conversation go forward. And then hopefully like, yeah, it's something we can kind of incorporate in the conversation we're having about DXD liquidity.
Yeah, I can tell you that some of the stuff that I don't know. I guess you know Lior Sky, but Lior and I have been talking a lot about like you have like all these market makers like Wintermute and Efficient Frontier and Jump, and the notion is that they're an extractor. Like it's not their goal to their goal is to collect a fee from whatever the protocol or the project, but whether like is it possible for something like Ichi to replace that and allow the community to participate as sort of like the market makers, and that's something like it's something very interesting to explore, because the community and the people who are holding the token are way more aligned than whatever Wintermute that just wants to collect a fee and extract as much value. So yeah, this is like something to think about.
Yeah. The other interesting thing to me, because let's talk about a Zapper or a liquidity.eth. So far, we've just been saying like we're going to have that for Uniswap V2 pools, but like building out liquidity.eth for Uniswap V2 pools is, in my mind, okay for like immediate time. But like when Uniswap V4 comes out and then like Uniswap V3 is old, like Uniswap V2 pools are going to be even older, right? So if we're going to have that place that people come, they have a 1 token or they have 2 tokens, and they're going to come to liquidity.eth or Zapper.eth or whatever, and they're going to want to like do something and find what to do, where to get some good yields and all that. The teaming up with or including what Ichi and Arrakis are including for Uniswap V3 style into that explorer experience, right? That person's going to be looking, what should I do with this token? And if there's this thing that looks like a vault, and it's like, oh, you have this token Y, and Y you could either put into this pool or this pool or this pool, and it's kind of like deposit into a vault. It becomes and almost like get a referral fee or something for sending business to that vault. It then becomes more like an echo router. So it's a liquidity provisioning router that would be a place that people could gather the different options and deposit. And that's the only way you can do it in a comparison way for Uniswap V3, because you have to have active management, I think, for Uniswap V3 pools, and then you'd want to give. Let's assume there's going to be lots of these. There's going to be more than just 2 or 3 of them. There's going to be 10 of them. You're going to want to compare those different strategies and then let people put into that, and that would be the way that I would see this fitting into like liquidity.eth. Yeah, I guess Elon's jumping to a crying baby. And so I think Elon had mentioned Mochi. Mochi historically has been more of a social connection game, basically like a goal-oriented, goal-seeking social game. But as they grow, there's ideas around it being a useful tool for DAOs or working groups or guilds or squads. But as I had mentioned in the chat, like I see it more currently for the social side, which is good, helps increase communication between people and teams and things. But it would be good. Gabe is the creator of Mochi Game, and it actually came out of solving some problems when he worked at Consensus a long time ago. So it will be good to hear his take on maybe how a DAO like DXDAO could leverage it. And he'll probably be showing up very shortly. I don't know if everyone got to check out the site. It's just mochi.game. You can see mochi.game. You can get a feel for what it looks and feels like. I was happy to see Argentina pull it out yesterday after almost blowing it multiple times. Maybe we'll take 1 minute of silence for France and every other country.
I ate some pork testicles over the weekend. It's a specialty apparently in Portugal.
Oh, Dave, did you wear your poncho again on the
No, I was thinking France would win yesterday, so that's why I didn't wear my poncho. And it was a crazy game. I mean, I think France should have won because Argentina, the first pen was not a penalty, and France had a penalty they were not awarded. So I think I really don't care because I'm neither French nor Argentinian. But if I were French, I would be really pissed.
I kind of agree with the second one. I do think the first one was a penalty. It was a very stupid penalty, but unnecessary. So it looks like it shouldn't have been, but it's pretty clear, I think. Oh.
Hey, Gabe.
1 minute interlude.
Hey. 1 minute late. I thought I'd make it right by 8:30.
Nice. Nylon's here, but he's got a crying baby. I gave a little intro. Well, we talked last week about Mochi a little bit. I gave a little more background just now and kind of my experience with it so far. It would be cool to hear from you. But one of the things that I was asking about and we were talking about is, from my perspective, like Mochi has been largely like social and goal oriented, but like small social groups, and obviously good for building communication and relationships within those groups. And we were curious how, if you're seeing that like in DAOs or like working groups within DAOs, or focused on DAO goals versus like personal goals? If there's anything there, or like anything that you're learning from other communities that that DXDAO could try to implement into our community, or our now guilds, basically, which are like work streams based on different verticals.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like everybody has some context. I have a presentation that I usually run through, but if everybody already kind of knows how it works and all that kind of stuff, maybe we don't have to go through it. I can just jump into it. What do you think?
I guess going through that, would people like to see that? I mean, most people don't know exactly how it works, so they just kind of know high level what it is. But I think it'd be worth going through quickly. That maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm back. I would say probably go through just to explain kind of how it works, and maybe to give a little bit more context. I think this could be. I mean, I talked to you, Gabriel, about this, but I think this could be a way to sort of like create like more cohesion in sort of some of the working groups, with the target being some of the KPIs and OKRs that we're gonna, like, we're entering sort of like a new journey in a few weeks, and like the beginning of 2023, trying to figure out quite a few things. And then this could be, I think it could be a way to sort of like align everyone. Maybe starting with the DXbiz group, because Sky knows it and I know it, but then graduating to maybe other parts of the DAO.
Okay, sounds good. So what I'll do is, this presentation is like 10 minutes or less, and I can just go through it really quickly since everybody has some like high level context already. But we can do that, and then I can give you an example of basically how we use it internally, and then I'll give you another example of like a project that we're working on for the next round that I think should be very relevant to DXDAO. But let me try. Let's do this. I'm gonna do it. Chrome tab. Let me do this in presenter view. Let me know if you can see this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool, super. All right, well, let me introduce myself real quick. So my name is Gabriel. I'm player 0x of what we like to call a remote coordination game called Mochi. Mochi is a small team of 4 based in 3 different time zones. So I've been working fully remote for about the past 8 years since I joined crypto full-time in 2014. I don't know if Elon or Sky mentioned this, but before founding Mochi, I helped write the Gnosis white paper, worked on the first music NFT platform on Ethereum called Ujo Music. I am more or less a recovering accountant that's obsessed with all the 3-letter kind of acronyms that we love in the crypto space. But today, let's focus on DAOs because, well, if you're here, then you believe the statement, I'm assuming, that DAOs are the next vehicle for humanity. So if you're still here, you're like me, then you believe that the most exciting organizations in the next 10 years will definitely be DAOs. And probably believe also that every company, club, and community will play with some version of tokens in the near future. It's for sure going to be the next vehicle that all of humanity pours into, especially after this AI moment. But it's not going to work in their current form, is what I believe. So currently DAOs are actually very, very inefficient. I think we all know this. They're very noisy, clunky, demand too much of your time, attention, and energy. And my thesis basically is that a lot of the DAO tooling today has been kind of focused on making better fuel injection technology for organizations. Despite the improvements in the last 4 years with things like Moloch DAO, I think they still fail to compete against smaller, well-fueled entities. And in the end, we're basically still working with a money combustion engine. And the combustion engine is really starting to sputter out, I think, as the nature of working becomes increasingly decentralized and remote. It took a global pandemic and the rise of machine learning really to help us realize that humanity is stuck in this perpetual state of chaos. What the past few years has shown us is that we can actually do a lot more from home with less people as well. So we have to ask ourselves, why DAOs haven't done the same? It seems like we've only made it more complex to complete the most simplest mundane tasks. The story that I like to point to is I recently went to the Stanford DAO Summit. This was like a couple months ago, and people were kind of sitting around in the org dev table, and they were talking about writing a white paper on like why DAOs should matter for academics. And I said, well, what's the story that you're going to tell about DAOs? If there's one kind of attention grabbing story that makes it make sense, what is it? And everybody kind of without a blinking an eye said, oh, it's Constitution DAO. And I went, why is it Constitution DAO? Like, what is it about Constitution DAO that makes sense? It took a ton of time, energy, attention, people all over the world, Twitter for several days and weeks to raise a bunch of money just to lose a bid at buying the Constitution, which I get is a meme and a marketing angle that we need to make it to make the DAO thing stick. But it seems to be doing the exact opposite of what technology needs to be doing, which is to save you time in doing gargantuan tasks with the least amount of people possible. We're doing the complete opposite with DAOs for some reason, and we think this is a win, and we need to find a different path. I think we really need to take a different approach with DAOs in this next phase, especially in this this bear market. Because if DAOs are building the next vehicle for humanity, it's not enough to just build a new chassis for gasoline. We need a completely new motor, one that's more efficient, that saves us time and energy. And we need more than a motor, actually. We need an EV. So if DAOs are the EV of coordination, then Mochi wants to be the Tesla of Web3. We're working on a new battery for the model DAO. If you don't like kind of all the kind of like techie, car analogies, whatever, we also like organic analogies. I actually prefer them. Think of Mochi kind of like mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of the cell. So we generate ATP to power the atomic units of your organization, which is really the people. And here's our value prop. Mochi saves you time coordinating online. We distribute tokens in a fun and easy way, and we drive autonomous engagement in your DAO. So we want you to supercharge your community using this concept of staked goals and playing our coordination game in Discord or Slack or wherever it is that you like to organize your community. Pods, circles, teams, squads, whatever you call groups of people in your organization, we believe that having skin in the game makes them stick together better. So here's how it works. The rules are pretty simple. You pick a goal and then you commit to that goal for a period called a journey. Journeys can be as long as you want, but the standard in the Mochi community is 8 weeks. Next, you commit to your goal by staking ETH. In the future, you'll be able to stake your own DAO native token, but right now it's just ETH. There's 4 different difficulties ranging from easy to hard mode. So the more that you stake, the more you earn. That's the basic mental model. Mochi is a team game, so you can join a team of up to 4 players. We recommend anywhere between 2 to 4. And everyone can work on different goals or an overarching goal as a team. MochiBot will ping you every day and remind you to submit a Pearl of Wisdom. So that's our play on this concept of proof of work. It's basically a simple 2-minute check-in that you can use in place of a daily stand-up. The standard question is based on a set of agile principles, but they can be customized to whatever your organizational needs. So if it needs to be customized to a specific KPI, we can do that. Just let us know. You submit daily check-ins and earn Mochi tokens as you make progress towards your goal. And every successful check-in is shared in a team channel where everyone can stay in sync. And there's also a global channel that these reports get shared. And I can show you if we want to do a demo later, so that everybody in the DAO can kind of have like a high-level view into what everybody's working on. As you earn these tokens, you can spend the tokens on your avatar in a shop that we've built. So in the future, we want to basically make Mochi into kind of a living, breathing, intelligent kawaii companion. But for now, all of the items just have utility to help you perform better in the game. So we want to help you prevent you, from getting slashed, slashing your teammates, so on and so forth. And what a slash is what happens when you miss your check-in. So if you miss, you lose a portion of the ether that you staked. And if you keep missing, the slashes go up, and then your teammates will lose ether as well if you just are kind of toxic and not showing up. Any lost ETH returns to a community slash pool, which then the DAO can use for whatever it wants. A small percentage of that goes back to Mochi, which we use to keep the game going. So in case you're wondering how we like to play the game inside the Mochi community, here's a little bit more on us. So Mochi is kind of a community of kawaii companions. We help each other realize our dreams. We've been playing, we made this game basically in 2020 using a Google Sheet. And we've been playing it ever since to help curate, retain, and drive member engagement. So we run a cohort style onboarding experience when you join Mochi. So you're required to complete 1 journey to become a Mochi member, and then 2 journeys per year to remain an active member of Mochi. As you successfully complete the journeys, you rank up in our organization and you earn reputation based on your check-in score. So our community-wide check-in rate is over 80%. So that means when you're playing, 4 out of 5 days, people are showing up to play. We're on our 8th cohort, and we're going to be starting a new chapter of that with a Dream Oscillator in Q1 of next year. Since we went through Seed Club at the beginning of this year, we ran pilots in 20 different communities, including Pleaser, Metacartel, Cabin DAO, 2Plus, to name a few. I think the one that's going to be most relevant is SheFi, so that's why I kind of called it out over here. Hopefully everybody's familiar with SheFi, but if you're not, it's a Web3 community that empowers women to unlock financial freedom through crypto education, experimentation community. So many of the SheFiers are actively looking to make career transitions into Web3. And one of the blockers that they found was that after completing the course that Maggie put together, they still kind of need something to point to after, to kind of demonstrate what they've learned as a result of finishing the course. So over 8 weeks, we worked with a team of 5 SheFi women to create kind of a career launchpad program. The program basically used Mochi to do deep dives into new protocols and then create artifacts to showcase what they've learned to potential employers. So the team decided to look at regenerative finance and on-chain messaging. They chose Toucan and Dispatch as their first project. And the interesting thing about this setup was, rather than having the ladies stake the ether themselves, the community staked the ether on their behalf, sort of as like a bounty. So it's kind of like an inverted model. It can go either way. Either team members are staking, or the organization could stake it on their behalf. So the Shefire is based in 4 different cities. They work together to break down the complexities of the carbon credits market, sending messages to wallets, and then they publish their analyses basically on Mirror XYZ. And then also maybe relevant to DXbiz, like at the conclusion of the journey, we asked them to perform kind of a subjective evaluation of their teammates. And for that, we used Coordinate's Give Circle. You guys are probably familiar with Coordinate. So the women looked at their shared check-in channel, basically where they were generating these proofs of works, to review each other's contributions over that 8-week period. And then they made subjective allocations using Give in the Give Circle. Then we took the Give balances basically, and we awarded extra bonus Mochi tokens at the conclusion of the pilot. So, part of our thesis is that, like, if you can create an objective trail of work for what people are doing day to day, these tools that are meant to kind of reward people subjectively, like Coordinate, perhaps like Carrot, are actually better because we have a record that people can refer to, and again, a trail of proof of work that you can use to kind of validate any kind of activity, giving out tokens that you do inside of your organization. So we're working with our team to expand the program, the Career Launchpad program, in Q1. Multiple teams, and their journeys are actually going to be sponsored by communities and protocols. So Aave, LivePeer, Optimism, whatever's are going to be the ones staking for the women, and they want to use it basically kind of like a two-way recruiting funnel. So that's basically it. I'll tell you about some other kind of like, use cases after this, but in conclusion, we're here to power the next vehicle for humanity. I think that vehicle is the DAO. I think we all believe that. So we're kind of working on the Tesla for the next generation of remote workers. We really do believe that the combination of staked goal setting and a trail of proof of work is the crypto native path forward to saner, quieter, more efficient DAOs. We want to help you save time, increase engagement, reduce coordination costs as DAOs continue to scale and decentralize and become more remote. It's really our hope that Mochi will become more than just a bot, but an intelligent companion that can help increase autonomy in your organization. We're here for the A. Everybody's been working on the D. We're working on the A for the model DAO. So if you want to help us build the Gigafactory, that's our QR code. And to follow us on Twitter. So there's 10 minutes. I can answer questions, or I can tell you about like some more DAO related things that we're piloting in the next year. Just let me know. But I'll stop sharing real quick.
Thanks, Gabe. Does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah, Wayne.
I wanted to clap. I'm sorry.
I've got a baby that refuses to sleep, but I just want to say that, like I told this to Gabriel, like during COVID, I made a DAO on DAO style. Basically, you stake. Back then, it was like 1 ETH, which was $200, and then you have to work out every day for 7 days, and you get 1/7 of that ETH back every day. So, like, I really believe in this sort of like models, and I think something that really happens here, like you can clearly see it, is you're sort of creating a habit with people, even if it's just that small thing of entering the Discord and checking in or saying something. And I think this is like this is something super valuable, and I mean, I think all of us have the habit of like entering like Keybase or Discord every day, but I mean, this could be a great way to sort of like align internally, in my opinion, and also help, grow our community around, like basically bringing some of the people in the Discord or in other places to become like maybe members that are, I guess, more often engaged. So yeah.
Yeah, I can there's a mental model underneath this that I think we're all familiar with it. We just to kind of like lean into this habit thing. These habit forming systems exist basically in every technology we use. They're just invisible. So the analogy I like to draw for people is like Twitter slashes you. You don't know it, but Twitter slashes you. There's an algorithm there that encourages and rewards people to tweet every single day. So we know this, right? Like if you drive engagement, clicks, if you tweet at least once a day, you get a higher prioritization in the Twitter algorithm. So, you know, we were just like, it's kind of foreign and feels weird to kind of bring it up to the surface, but realistically, this is how our systems work. We're not aware of it. And what we want to do kind of is like, you know, this entire blockchain experiment is like increase transparency every single way and then make the rewards explicit. And that's what, you know, our technology does a really good job of, tokens, all that kind of stuff. If there are any other questions, I can talk about another way. This is we're thinking about using this for engagement. So there's a project that I cannot name just yet, but let's say they're probably one of the most widely used DAO tools that's ever kind of, you know, ever been that's been built. I think we've all probably, I would say that everybody in this room has probably touched this tool. They're starting a DAO and they want to airdrop some tokens. And let's say that many DAOs want to do this kind of thing because airdropping tokens is like, you know, one step in towards engaging people in your community to kind of do some work for you. But I think what we found with this kind of like last wave of airdrops is that people just kind of farm them and don't really participate in the DAOs. You know, you kind of just like it's a very low cost entry. You kind of just use the tool, you get the airdrop, and then whatever, you're, you know, part of the DAO, you delegate it to somebody. What they want to do is like, you know, they're going to create a Discord once the airdrop happens. It's going to be a nominal amount, not going to be a ton. You're not going to get rich off of this airdrop. But what they want to do is like, they're going to get thousands and thousands of people back involved, engaged, ideally, maybe, let's say, because they're getting this airdrop. They're going to pile them all into this community and they don't really have a thing for them to do. They're just like going to be in the Discord. And they're like thinking about building some bots or whatever, just to kind of keep people happy and engaged. But what we're working through with them is like, no, this is an opportunity to actually bring people deeper into your community. You just got to give them an onboarding experience. So, you know, in the similar way we use it to kind of onboard people into our community, what they want to do is basically create some kind of like starter journey or starter program, basically, where you learn kind of like the ins and outs of the culture of that community. Maybe some like quick steps of like how to engage in a more tangible way, you know, kind of like a list of to-do things that you might do in your first 2 weeks of joining a company, let's say. And throughout that program, you have to stake the token that they airdrop to you, and you got to complete it up to, you know, let's say 80% report and rate. Rabbit hole. Yeah, rabbit hole is great. You know, like rabbit hole gives you a set of tasks, right? Like when you kind of like are playing with a protocol, they teach you how to do these different things. But I think, you know, there's something to be said about like the kind of cultural onboarding that needs to happen with some of these groups. And I think they want to kind of like also increase, like, you know, create this habit from the get-go of like, hey, the way that this works is you check in daily and we play this game to coordinate daily. And getting it into the early DNA of the organization as it's making is like, you know, one of the best things you can do, I think, for habit forming, because it's harder to change habits later on. And then they'll basically use that as a curation function, because if you like can't commit and you can't show up on working on, you know, some things that have been set in front of you, then maybe you're not going to be the most engaged member of the DAO. You're not going to be that big of a contributor. So it's one way to kind of create a funnel and start the activity going on, you know, from the very beginning, and then keeping it going. So we've built some features that make it really, really easy to just roll into the next journey. Now we have this concept of journey waves. Everything's a game for us. You know, it's like, if you've ever played like Halo, or if you've played Call of Duty, you've played these games where like you just sit in a lobby and then the timer starts ticking and then it automatically puts you onto teams. You know, it's just like whatever you can do to just keep the thing going is just like kind of how we kind of drive the engagement. And then people, the magic of the DAO thing will kind of emerge just by people meeting and working on things together. Now, that's kind of like the loose version of this, but, you know, we use Mochi to build Mochi. We eat our own dog food and we use this to build our team. So we're based in, like I said, 4 different cities, 4 different time zones. My co-founder right now is in the Philippines. He was in Madrid earlier in that, and he's working in opposite time zones. The sync meeting. So if you're running a good organization that's remote, you're doing a daily stand-up. You're doing a daily stand-up regardless if you're running an organization, right? And we got to figure, what is the cost of that stand-up to a decentralized remote team? Because as you know, the costs of physical space go down when we moved kind of into the metaverse, and we go home and stuff, the cost of coordination goes up. I think we all know that, right? And it's like we have to do all of these extra things to kind of keep people engaged, involved, and running with what we're working on. And the cost of the sync meeting is actually quite high if you have engineers, right? So if you're demanding an hour of time from engineers per day just to do a sync meeting when they could be, banging away an extra hour on code, I don't know how much you pay your engineers, but let's say you pay them $100 an hour, right? Multiply that over 2 weeks, in the time period, multiply that over by a month. This is several thousands of dollars depending on how many engineers you got. Every organization that I've seen that's unicorn comes up with a system that's similar to this one. Google called it snippets. Basically, an engineer developed a system that sent emails throughout the company that you would get, and you would respond, and it was the agile questions. How are you feeling? What did you do yesterday towards XYZ? What are you working on today? What's getting in your way, and what's blocking you? So you answer those questions, some roll up happens, it's shared throughout the team. This is cited often as the number one thing that improves productivity in organizations that, have a lot of engineers and developers that are working on many different things. It just gives you an oversight and saves you time in coordinating that information, because otherwise you got to hold a meeting to kind of just do the status update thing. So we're really focused on saving people time and just making it more transparent and working within the bounds of, the principles of Web3 to kind of just create an experience that is, truly DAO native. And, our hope is that every DAO, again, in the future will have their own token. They can play this game with their own stake tokens, and reward their people with their tokens, slash with the tokens, create pools of capital that small people in the organization can, go do stuff with. So that's an idea.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess the daily within guilds, the block, what you're working on, what's important to you, and then if there's something blocking you, and everyone knowing that for each person in your guild or squad.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else being able to then already knowing I can help that person stop that blocker. Without having a meeting, it makes, assuming everyone's reading their teams
Mm-hmm.
needs, that makes sense to me. Do devs, are there devs here? Adam, is that could you see a dev team using that instead of a daily stand-up?
I was not paying too much attention. I was coding.
Exactly. Asynchronous
Meetings.
Yeah, asynchronous. This is what I've been working on. This is what I care about, and then this thing is blocking me, which is kind of what you might talk about in a stand-up, but doing it asynchronously each day, or maybe some days. I guess it would be every day of the work week. Yeah.
It depends on the team. So on a small team, you want to be as cohesive as possible. So you're tightly coupled, especially with the NIMI setup. I want everyone to be up to date, whether asynchronously or synchronously, it doesn't matter. But generally, the goal is to know what you're working on, what is blocking you, and then how can you move forward.
Yeah.
In bigger teams, I can probably see this some sort of having value, but it really depends on the team style. Some people just don't like going to meetings. Some people like meetings. Some people find being on a huddle channel on Discord helping them. So it's a different type of communication style for each team.
Yep.
That's a great meme.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we can. So as we're DXDAO, which was all one big DAO, everyone doing proposals straight to the DAO for the new year, as Elon may have mentioned, we're fractalizing more into guilds focused around different products and services and verticals of the DAO, so giving more autonomy to each smaller group for how they pay and how they act, and I think some of the guilds may be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Start to make sense. Yeah, smaller.
I think that makes smart. Yeah, I think, the kind of our mantra is, dream big, start small, right? So, what we typically do within organizations, we'll go in and we'll figure out like what's a test pilot thing, what's something that you want to accomplish, and then we'll if we need to, we can run a design jam where we kind of like create the idealized journey, I think, for the team. But it often just starts with kind of like low stakes participation, very small. Our staking minimums are very small, in the order of like $20, $40, I think, at current prices for like the minimum. And it's like you play the journey. If you're perfect, that money still belongs to you, basically. But yeah, at the guild level, if guilds have specific KPIs or goals related to their product, I'm assuming it's just like product denominated. We could come up something that's related to the product. There are certain metrics you got to meet. And however, the project manager, I don't know how these guilds are structured, and we can get into that, I guess, when we kind of do more of the pilot kickoff call. Depending on how they're structured, we can work with a project manager or a product manager, if there is one, to have it, kind of fit their management style, so that, hopefully they save time, and then the questions can be tailor-made to whatever the objective is. And then they can use that as like a additional kind of information source and gathering tool to help them perform a little bit more effectively, efficiently.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome. So I guess we have this recorded. We'll share it with the others and contributors that weren't here. And then I guess we'll figure out a group or two that might want to do this within their guild, and we can let you reach out and let you know, and do hopefully start a trial.
Cool. Sounds good. I'm here. You know where to find me. Sky, hopefully I'll see you when you're back in California.
Cool.
All right. Sweet. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully we see each other again in the metaverse in the new year. Thank you. Super special thank you to Elon for bringing me on. Very much appreciate it. So dream big, start small, stick together. That's our whole thing. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
That was great.
Ciao.
Cool. I guess we can stop it there.